Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you are watching Season 3 of Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsors, Mixam Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixam is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixam is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns. A bunch of them you have even heard about on this very show. And they currently offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixam can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to mixam.com. And right now, listeners of this show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. So that is mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on that order. Also, I have BCW Supplies, where you can get bags, boards, long boxes, and everything you need. They have some Zenescope stuff up there in the short boxes. And if you use Pop Anime Comics, you can get 10% off your order. And when you're sending me a Kickstarter, I want my comics bagged and boarded. Please do it. It's important. If I'm paid $30 for a comic, I want it pristine. And the people who are watching, and in particular, somebody knows who they are. So, having said that, please use that code, though, and save yourself some money. Inflation's hitting. And I have a Redbubble t-shirt up. It's this bad boy right here. You can go pick that up. Links in the description as well. And without further ado, I have with me legendary comic writer for Zenescope, Pat Shan. So welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited because I've been reading Zenescope for a while. I collect Zenescope, and you got a lot going on. We're going to talk briefly about Zenescope in a second here, but I do want to mention that you have a Kickstarter that just launched.
Yeah.
You are fully funded. It's your first full day fund ever. It's over 9,000. To insert your Dragon Ball Z joke right in there.
Yeah, do it. Hey, I should have memed that, dude. I should have memed that. I missed the chance.
But it's for Prison Witches, Volume 3, and you get all the volumes. So links up above, and we're going to talk about that in a second here. And congratulations on that, by the way, as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But I do want to talk about Zenescope.
Of course, let's do it all. Yeah, let's do it all.
Because I'm a huge Zenescope fan, and there's only a little bit of Zenescope I want to talk about with you. And I want to talk about Robin Hood, because you really have built out Robin Hood as a character. And you've really laid down the foundation, and Robin Hood is one of the major characters in Zenescope, one of the most popular characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was this like? Because you've really developed Robin Hood, and you've worked on so many titles with Robin Hood and all that stuff.
Yeah. Robin, it was a journey. It was a multi-tiered journey. It was actually my first ever miniseries at Zenescope. At the time, I was new in comics. I had done one-shots here and there. I did Angel for IDW, some Zenescope stuff, some Big Dog Ink stuff. And I had done a few annuals, and they asked me what I thought about doing a female Robin Hood. And I was excited, dude. I always wanted to do a longer thing, a miniseries. And I got the outline. It was for issue 1 and a piece of issue 2, which was... It ended up being very different from what we actually did. Issue 1 was almost start to end what you saw. Issue 2 is where it went off. Issue 2 began to make it feel more like an issue of Grim Fairy Tales, where you brought Sela in. Sela was kind of coaching Robin Hood, and I saw that and I liked it. But I asked if I could pitch my own direction and see if we could have it be a bit more true to the original, epic of Robin Hood, the poems. We brought in Will Starlet, Little John, all those characters, and made it about the rebellion and had that element into it. So yeah, that was how it started, was from the seed of an outline. Me, Raven Gregory, Joe Brusher, Ralph Tedesco, we developed it together and asked, do we have to have this element? Can we bring in this? And really shaped that first series into, a mostly standalone story. It brought Robin from Earth to Miss back to Earth and told a full circle revenge story. And then I remember the week that number one came out, Ralph called me and he said, "It's doing well. How do you feel if we make it ongoing?" And and you know, at that point, Robin Hood uh, was a miniseries, and the only other ongoing then was Grim Fairy Tales. So I was stunned, and I said, of course I have ideas. And Ralph called back in about 5 minutes and said, "Don't get too excited. I'm going to ask about it." And what it ended up being was, instead of doing an ongoing, then we began to talk more about trilogy. Sort of following Raven Gregory's example of the Wonderland trilogy, and that was our first goal, to essentially do something for Zenescope that would be as big as and as relevant in their universe as that trilogy.
Yeah, and let's even talk about that because a lot of, as I was stating, a lot of groundwork for Robin as a character was
Yeah,
laid out in those trilogies,
yeah,
and a lot of things she dealt with, really coming into the character and also really building her fan base in a lot of ways because obviously it was doing well and people really gravitated towards Robin and gravitated towards her story. And I think everybody's been in a similar situation. Not maybe I shouldn't say everybody because she's in a rough situation.
yeah, yeah,
I don't think things happen the same way they happened to her. And I'm being very vague for a reason because I want people to read it. Because
yeah,
once I start telling, I'm going to ruin things. And there's a reason why I win trivia in Zenescope in the early days of the virtual con. Every question was about Robin Hood, and nobody's read Robin Hood. It's terrible. It's just terrible. I was giving out like 15 face masks from Zenescope because of Robin Hood trivia. It's bad. It's bad. But what was this really like? Because obviously Robin Hood is now a massive character,
yeah,
and people like
yeah.
Chuck Dixon have written Robin Hood and a variety of others, and have taken what you've done, and everything's been built almost linear upwards
Yeah.
with her and what she is and what she's become. And then obviously Jason Carty did a statue and all that
Yes. Yeah.
between the four of you and really just laying out that trilogy and the one shots and a variety of other stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be possible without that groundwork. And so it's very cool in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. How is it looking at Robin Hood now? You know, it's kind of strange at first when you are, I spent so long writing Robin Hood, and I began to see, stories that were coming out featuring Robin Hood, and, under her title, that I wasn't really writing, wasn't in control of. And now it's been years, it's been, I think 2016 was my last Robin Hood story. So there's been so much going on with her title since then. There's been, Lou did I Love New York. Joe Brusha has his own run going on now with the one shots. And yeah, how can I say this? It's cool to see. It's fun to see her stay a staple of Zenescope, but I don't want to make it seem like it's surprising to me, because she was designed to do this. She was, when Ebas submitted his first cover, when we got the art germ for volume 2, there was always the plan in Zenescope to make Robin and then Van Helsing. They knew that they had like dynamite. They knew that the design of the character and the story that we all came up with together was gonna be fire. Like there was no like real surprise there that she's still like one of their biggest icons, I guess. Who actually did surprise me though. It has surprised me to see Mystere, who we created for Arcane Anchor. She has become one of their staple characters, and she isn't someone that we had a big plan for. She was a supporting character in my Grim run, and so that surprises me in a very good way. But Robin, I feel like they're doing it right. I feel like that's how it should be. She should remain their icon.
And so to even go further into, Robin, and then we're going to
Yeah,
dive into Van Helsing, one of the things about Zenescope that really I think also helps is that they have a lot of exclusive covers. They
yeah,
are very much bad girl art in a lot of ways. And whether they want me to say that or not, they have that vibe to it. And they're one of the companies that obviously I'm 29, so I didn't get to experience bad girl art top cap,
yeah,
but I've gone backwards And Zenescope is in somewhat of that vein with certain covers and certain exclusive covers.
Oh
And
yeah.
that also has helped, I think, in a lot of ways as well. And so, what is that like for you? Because I know you're the writer, but to
Yeah.
also see that, hey, there's a limited 100 print run or a limited 250 print run or a limited 500 print run. And then there's a cover for New York Comic Con
Yeah.
or a cover for Heroes Cons or San Diego Con. What is that like? Because it makes the book, I feel, a lot more special in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it it was a learning experience for me because I came into comics as a playwright. I was writing theater, I was writing short films. So the idea of the collectability I wasn't really aware of. I didn't really know the market there. Uh and learning that was I definitely had a learning curve to see why so many people wanted this cover. But I began to see more of what that kind of cover can do for a company at conventions. And then as the pandemic hit, I began to see from afar how Zenescope would do their live streams and work that angle. And yeah, there's a reason, and this is a story that I haven't told ever yet, um, publicly. Almost every publisher that I talk to and have a relationship with besides Zenescope always wants me to give them insight on how Zenescope does their exclusives and collectibles so well. They are looked at as a premier collectible comic book company. And, on one level, sometimes back then, I wondered, like, does everyone who collects also read the story? The answer is no. But now I think that's okay. Like now I see the value of a book functioning as both. A book doesn't have to be just a story. It could be a story and a collectible, right? So as long as some people are reading and some are using the book, to either flip it and make money or to build a collection, no matter how it goes, I'm honored to be part of it.
It's also the idea that I don't read Zenescope in physical form. I have a Comixology subscription,
Yeah,
and about 80% of Zenescope's library is on Comixology.
yeah,
So it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm not tired, but I don't feel like turning on a lights. I don't feel like going down into my parents' basement to get my comics,
yeah,
but I'm reading a lot of this stuff, and I've read a lot of your stuff digitally. And that's something that's also changing, I feel, as well, where I know Zenescope on a digital level. I don't know them on a physical level, but I collect them on a physical level. And it's a
yeah,
very weird thing. And I don't know how to explain it to somebody where I know Zenescope in two different formats, but I also have an iPad that has like a sick retina screen and it looks awesome
yeah,
because I can actually see the color like almost popping off. And in comics, it's a very different experience. It's also like backlit and stuff like that. So
right.
it's very interesting. And obviously, this is my wheelhouse because I buy and sell comics and I treat it like stocks. And, I've done all right with it. And there's real money. And if you watch a Zenescope live stream, I am cited almost every single stream by Jason. Every single stream. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm here. Like, so it's a very interesting thing. But I didn't know they were viewed as a premium collectible company. I just view
Yeah,
them as a company that has value to their books and that people want it and
yeah.
that a good majority of their books go up in value.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would say that you know, if there is a person out there who has one of their life goals is to have every Zenescope cover, then that is premium, dude. And there are I've some of the craziest times at conventions were when people would come up to the table and you know when you write for a company as a staff writer and when you edit, your name ends up being on a lot of books and it feels like you're never out of the hustle. So you don't really stop to look at what you've done until you go to a big Comic Con and someone shows up with a crate of long boxes and they have every cover of every book that you've done since the previous year's convention. And seeing that and seeing that people care about that kind of stuff and making sure they have every single cover, that was mind blowing to me. And signing all those was, sometimes it would take like an hour or two, but it was fun.
Yeah, no, which Zenescope fans are extremely loyal
Yeah,
and they are very loyal to the T and people spend real money with Zenescope.
yeah,
I have a budget at every single virtual con and I think my budget's a little bit high. And there are people who drop like 500-600 bucks, and I'm like, holy smokes, there's something, you know.
Yeah.
But I also don't just buy Zenescope books, so that's probably why my budget is a little bit lower than everybody else's, even though it might be high. But the other character I do want to talk about is the Van Helsing stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
As far as her creation,
or even just coming into Van Helsing, because you came in with Van Helsing versus the Mummy,
no,
and
no,
then
no, no, before that.
oh, you came in before. Oh,
Yeah.
snap!
Yeah, I co-created her. Yeah. Me, Ralph, Raven, and Joe co-created Van Helsing for Unleashed, the Unleashed event. We were doing this monster series. We were wondering, we do these fairy tale stories, but where are the monsters in the Grimm universe? Where are the vampires, werewolves, demons, and zombies? So we had this idea that there was an event in the 1800s where they were all sucked into this dimension, and from that sprung, God, it's so stressful to even talk about because it's so much. Sprung 6 series, dude. We did the core Unleashed series. We did a werewolf series, zombie, demon, vampire, and then the 6th one was Hunters the Shadowlands, which was the prequel to the main Unleashed core book, and that introduced 4 hunters. Roman the werewolf hunter, Masumi the demon hunter, Elijah the zombie hunter, and Van Helsing the vampire hunter. And Raven and I together came up with, I think, 2 different pitches for the vampire series and who the hunter would be. And one day, um, Ralph just called me and said, "What about a female Van Helsing?" And we ran with that. Gave her a personality, gave her a design. Anthony Spade designed her, and from there, I wrote her in Vampires, in the core Unleashed book, and then Realm Knights. And I really wanted to deliver her, her personal series. So we started it. Back then it was called Helsing, not Van Helsing. It was just called Helsing, and we did Helsing number 1 through 4. And then I stayed on her title for Van Helsing versus Dracula, then Van Helsing versus Frankenstein, then this event book called Grim Fairy Tales Apocalypse, and finally Van Helsing versus the Mummy was my last bit for a while. And then years later, kind of now, I'm back on her title, starting with Van Helsing Invisible Woman and moving forward.
I got a picture for that by
that cover,
arguably one of the greatest cover artists of all time, Ivan Tao.
It's a sick cover. I was actually just talking about Ivan today with I actually can't say who, but but that cover is sick. And I mean, what a way to come back. I wanted to kind of branch out as a writer and do my own thing, do the Kickstarters, do creator owned, and become known as a creator owned guy, and a novel guy too. So I began to read some of what Dave Franchini was doing on Bell, on that kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed it. So I started talking to Dave and asked to come back for a title or two. And my first issue back as a freelancer was that one. And when I saw the cover, dude, I was like, wow, this is meant to be. What a beautiful cover.
I mean, I'm going to be very, very honest, where that is the cover to own on The Invisible Woman. Because it is such a cool cover. It is dealing with negative space, and it's so simple, yet it is so amazing, this cover. And I really think that it should not have been a cover C. It should have been an exclusive, because it is just that beautiful of a cover.
Yeah, it's intensely awesome. Yeah.
So I love that cover, and Ivan's special, for lack of a better word. Is the way I put it. And then, obviously, what is that like? Because he's an amazing artist, and you're doing this book. Yeah. And I enjoyed this book. And it's also, I think this book was 32 pages, which is kind of cool as well, where you got a little more page count in there. And you can actually tell a more intricate story in a lot of ways. And Zenescope's changed, where they've gone from, I think, 22 now to doing more 32 pagers and 72 pages and things of that nature. And what is that like? Because it changes the nature of what you're doing in a story.
Yes, that's also, I told the short reason why I was interested in coming back. That is a huge part of it, that they change things, because when I worked with them for, I think, 4 or 5 years exclusive. I did 2012 to 2016, right? And I wrote almost, I wrote as much as I could during that time. I wrote on almost every title, sometimes long runs. And I wondered sometimes what else could I do. And I would say that Zenescope probably felt the same way too, in that there would be times when you would open up the catalog and there'd be 8 titles that were written by me, and that was a lot. And the fact that they were all in the same universe together, and they were all multi-issue series, sort of made me, it was a challenge trying to find new ways to do things, which is why I put my the final event that I did, the Grim Fairy Tales Apocalypse. That was in many ways the send off to the characters that I've been working on for so many years. So when I saw them do that and start to do the single issues, the one shots, and then the 72 pages, not 72, 64 pages, I saw that and I was like, that is so new and so fresh. And it's been enough that just the overlap of a different format and time having passed and new characters really, really intrigued me.
And even to go further into that, because there's been a massive shift, and obviously COVID has forced that shift.
Yeah.
Also, readers' attention has forced that shift. Also, value for the reader, because at this stage in the game and where I'm at financially is that I'm being very selective on what I want to pick up,
Yeah.
and you have to now earn my dollar.
Yeah.
3 years ago I was picking up everything, and now I'm sort of going back a little bit and rescinding and actually looking at what I want to read. And so things have to be earned at this point. And also, it's the idea that people sort of want, I think, miniature graphic novels, as I like to call them. When you're doing 64 pages, 72 pages, I want more story. And I don't mind spending a little bit more money for it. And I don't even mind waiting a little bit longer for it as well. But it's also self contained too, because I'll pick up issues 1 and 2, and then I didn't know issues 3 and 4 came out. And then I just fall out of a series. But if it's a one shot, that's something that really does it for me in a lot of ways. And so, I think it's a good shift. And on top of the fact that other companies also are doing 24 pages at the same time, and it just makes it different. It makes it stand out to me a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And the first super big, I mean, what do they call it? Oversized 64 pager that I did was the Grim Tales of Terror Quarterly, I think it's called, and it was Death, Goddess of Death. Um, when I got the outline and saw what it was and how I wanted to break it up, it was unlike what we could have done back then. It couldn't have been a miniseries. It couldn't have been an ongoing. It couldn't have been a one shot. It was designed to be this epic that is double sized one shot, and I mean it's just nothing like it. There's no other way to say it, in that it was designed
If you
for that
break it
format.
up, it ruins it. And then
Yeah,
there's no break point in that story,
right. Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's just one of those things where sometimes a story cannot be told at a breakup point because it's going to
Yeah.
fuck it up, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it changes how you tell the story. There's no need to, do the whole fake out ending where you wait till you see what happens next. You just tell the story, and being able to live in the story, it lets you change the pacing, lets you change the character switches. It's just, it was really interesting to me as a writer, both as a challenge and a way to do something that was a lot meatier. I mean, I on my own Kickstarters, I'd say about half of what I do is stories in that same length. I do 60 to 70 page graphic novels, and I love that length. That to me is, it's a bit shorter than a miniseries arc, and it feels a lot more substantial than a standard one shot. That is the perfect little slice of comic to me, for sure.
And we're going to talk about your Kickstarter, I promise. I promise. But I do want to talk about at least a little bit more Van Helsing,
Oh,
because
as much as you want, dude. As much as you want.
because we have, obviously returning to the Return of the League of Monsters,
Yeah.
part 1, and then this is part 2. And I just like these 2 covers. And I just picked 2 of the covers that are my favorite. So if you don't like these 2 covers, there's I think 4 other covers that you could pick up on this series. There's probably more because there's some exclusives with it as well.
Probably.
But what was this like? Because I don't think you worked on the first League of Monsters, right?
No, I didn't. But what was interesting was, it was similar to Robin Hood, except Van Helsing, uh, the structure of her series, even beyond what I was doing, it's very, Van Helsing versus this, Van Helsing versus that. It's always been about monster hunting, whereas Robin took her in different directions, and wasn't always about Robin versus enemy. So when I see who is in the League of Monsters, both the original one that Raven and Dave did, and the one that I was going to jump onto, the League, it included characters that I had, co-created, worked on together before, like Frankenstein's in there, the Bride of Frankenstein, and seeing, you know, how they ran with those characters after my run, it made it really fun to go back. It was as if you were meeting an old friend and catching up, and you were surprised to learn some pretty cool things about them, and yeah, it was both that and also some new characters too. Raven co-created Dracula's daughter, who's in there. And then right before my new run on Van Helsing, Brian Hawkins did the Beast of Exmoor, who was also in the League of Monsters. Uh, so yeah, it was a
Brian
mixture.
Hawkins is a monster.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's an indie guy. He's an indie guy, and
Oh yeah,
he's a steal for Zenescope. Is a good way to put it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a mixture of the familiar and the new, which is exactly what I wanted out of writing for Zenescope.
Yeah, obviously I've read all this stuff digitally, and what I haven't read digitally, I've obviously picked up physically, and I like where it's going because it's a fascinating story. And I
Okay.
also feel like it's not enough for a STEM type story either, because Van Helsing is going down to hell to deal with a bigger problem, for lack of a better word. And
Yeah.
I enjoy the fact that it's also breaking new ground. And that's the thing about
Right.
Van Helsing is that great, we're fighting Frankenstein, we're fighting this person, we're fighting the mummy, but now we're actually fighting a pretty powerful demon in this, and there's some serious shit. And I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, Van Helsing has always had a challenge, but this is the one where she might be over her head a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big challenge, and it's interesting with this now too, because looking ahead a bit at the other Van Helsing things that are coming down the line, um, even though these are one shots, or a 2-issue series or a 64 pager, they all in some way push things forward and inform the character. Like right now, I'm doing a Dracula's daughter 64 pager, and that very much picks up from number 2 of Return of League of Monsters, and it stands alone while being informed by what's going on before and while setting up things for the future. It's a very kind of like old school classic way of doing things, which I like.
And even to talk about that, because one of the things is that obviously that's coming out, and then I also think there is Van Helsing, Hour of the Witch is
Yep.
also
Yep.
out there as well that you're working on or it's coming out. I'm not exactly sure when it's dropping
Yeah.
per se, but one of the things that Zenescope has done now, and I think they have done a really good job in the last 2 years, and not saying it didn't exist before, but they've really established the boundaries of their universe and are
Oh yeah.
starting now to throw things back into their universe. And obviously, Death Force for Zodiac did that, and a
Mhm.
variety of other things has now done that. So, what is that like for you? Because obviously, this is building out the universe, and everything is starting to stack up on each other, and everything's moving things forward. And at some point, there's going to be another event where all this stuff adds up, and there's going to be something coming. I mean, whether that's in the next month, the next year, the next 5 years, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that things are going to clash into each other, whether that's a big event or a small event or whatever it is. But something's coming down the pike.
Yes. Here's my take though. Back in the day, I was in their writers' room. I was part of the staff, and it was often my duty to either build that event or to be instrumental in helping Joe build the event. You know, like Raven and I ran Unleashed, then Joe ran Age of Darkness, then Raven and I then I ran Apocalypse, and then I left and Joe reinvented Grim Fairy Tales with Dave. Um, Now Dave Franchini and Dave Wohl are in that seat and they're steering the ship, and I get to be a more casual part of it, which I like. I like the idea of, now that I'm freelance, when a big story comes up and they let me take part in it and have me, write from the outlines or pitch an idea, that that's fun. But I wouldn't be the guy who's doing like the big company event anymore, because I've had my, I had two runs at that, which was both fun and it's all consuming, dude. Unleashed was wild,
It's a lot of pressure because if you mess it up, we're gonna be pissed.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and in fact, I remember I was at this comic book signing, and there was someone who was a Zenescope fan who had just read Dream Eater by Raven Gregory. And what we did on Unleashed was very different from Dream Eater, but they were hassling me about Raven on Dream Eater and like asking me things like, why did he do this? Why did he do this? And I'm like, dude, I don't even know. Like, I'm working on our new stuff. Like, leave the past stuff behind. I personally, Dream Eater though was good. I thought that was before I came on board, Dream Eater was the foundational Grim Universe event. That was, I think, the first time where multiple titles led to the same epic conclusion, I think. And Unleash was really us taking that idea and saying, all right, we did that, or they did that. Now let's do that times 1,000, and that isn't my role anymore. And dude, God bless Dave and Dave, because that's quite a task, and they're definitely up to it though. Dave Franchini has been running ship there for a while now, and yeah, it's a very fun gig. Being like the head writer guy, I'd say that Dave is probably, beyond being publisher, I'd say he's probably writing or at least plotting most of their stuff. And yeah, it's quite a gig. It's quite a gig.
Yeah, it's like booking a wrestling show. It's exactly like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm sure you got plenty of stuff. And I'm not going to push you too hard on this. And I'm not even touching like a tenth of what you've done with Zenescope. And you have a bunch of stuff that I thoroughly enjoy.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
there's like a million things you've done, but I do want to talk about Disney princesses because you
Yeah.
a short thing on this,
Yeah.
and the only question is that who's your favorite?
My favorite is Rapunzel. Gotta be Rapunzel. And
I didn't ask for an explanation.
no. I have a different little side story here. Is that I wrote so many scripts for that title that I don't even know which ones got made. I have no idea. I wrote, I think, like 12, and the company Joe Books went out of business. so and then Dark Horse picked it up and started doing it too. I don't know, but yeah, I love Rapunzel, dude.
That's all good. We're not going to ask any more questions about it. You can keep that one to the grave if you so choose. That's for somebody else to ask about Disney, and I'm sure that we could go to the House of Mouse anytime we would like to. But I do want to talk about your other thing and how you did go indie and you and creator owned, because you did something really cool with Destiny New York.
Right.
And that is a fascinating series, and there's a lot of stuff going on with this. I think there's 5+ volumes of it, and there's a lot of stuff that's surrounding it. So what was this like? Because this is the one that I sort of started knowing your name from outside of Zenescope.
Yeah, this was my first major Kickstarter, and it was, you know, I I actually had this conversation with Joe a little while back. Is that um when I was exclusive at Zenescope, the idea was to build together, but the truth was the core of Zenescope was always Ralph and Joe's vision. And I needed to set out and create my own vision and to do my own thing and to, you know, and that actually ends up helping me, I think, be a better writer, a better freelance writer for a company that's doing work for hire, because now that I have my own thing, I can zero in on what a company needs and not use it as like my end all be all, like magnum opus, like I have that with Destiny New York. That launched my Kickstarter career. I've since done 22 Kickstarters. I'm doing my 22nd right now. And yeah, it's about a world where magic is a real normal part of life, and it follows Logan McBride. She's a girl who had a prophecy made about her when she's young. She completes her destiny when she's just 13, and now she's entering her 30s trying to figure out life post destiny.
What do I do next? What do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's a metaphor for the child star actor, and it sort of like takes the idea of the fantasy hero and how the story follows them to the epic conclusion and then it ends. My question is, but what next? How is their normal life after doing this big amazing thing?
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff and dealing with relationships, dealing with
Yeah.
consequences of relationships, and there's a lot of adult things that are in here, and it's one of those things where it's going to make you think. And I've read pieces of it. I haven't read all of it, but I've read the first two volumes, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And I read ahead, and I know the spoilers, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I spoiled it for myself, but I had to do this interview, guys. I wanted to be prepared,
Yeah.
Yeah, but even still, it's very interesting. And you mentioned something where obviously, what was this like? Because I run this show,
Yeah.
and I feel that since I run this show, that if somebody was to go hire me and a company said, "Hey, we want you to run a podcast promoting our company and do it that way," I feel like I can do that now because I don't have
Yeah.
to get my own. I can go and do somebody's, podcast on cryptocurrency, for instance, or on veteran issues. And I think that's something that a lot of creators don't understand is that when you are a work for hire,
Yeah.
it's different than owning your creation.
Very
And
different.
they're
Yeah.
different skills by nature.
Yeah, and I think that some people doing both can help feed the other. That's the case for me. But yeah, it has been the joy of my career to create this book. It is a book that, you know, it it's my life's work right now. Who knows what'll be next? But right now, I'm putting everything I got into the book, and it is on its fifth volume, and we have uh, four spin-offs so far, with a fifth to launch this year. It is a little universe that we're building to get together. And Black Mask Studios has picked it up to do single issues as well. So we're both in the shops in single issues and on Kickstarter as trades.
And so let's even talk about that a little bit because
Yeah.
that's cool because you get the Kickstarter audience in there.
Yeah.
And obviously, I understand that where I have friends who are now getting into shops,
Yeah.
and then you get the money from the shops, and you also get people who will never come onto a Kickstarter, and they don't trust Kickstarter, they don't get Kickstarter, and they just want to pick up their book every single month
Right.
in a shop. And so I see your book all the time in previews,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so what is that like that you're hitting both audiences? And I also feel like it gives a lot of credibility to you. Where, and I don't know how you feel, but obviously I just funded on Kickstarter, and I feel that I have a little bit more respect to some degree because people are like, "Hey, you just did a Kickstarter, and now you understand. Oh, you actually were successful on a platform raising
Yes.
money." And
Yeah.
so I don't know how you feel about all of that and what that means exactly, or maybe that doesn't affect you. I don't know.
Oh no, it does. It's a shifting thing too. In the past, it was almost looked at as if Kickstarter is where creators go to take pictures that didn't get picked up, which, that to me has changed. Now Kickstarter is seen, I'd say, by, if not everyone in the comics community, I'd say that everyone who's a serious thinking person, it's seen as a legit way to publish comics. All the comics that I took to Kickstarter, starting with Destiny New York, I pitched to Oni and IDW, and we had short conversations at IDW, and I didn't like the idea of continuing that pitch journey, because it was always like, talking about short series. It's going to be a short series, and just changing things. The idea of it's too similar to this, so do this. I wanted to bring into Kickstarter because I thought if it's good enough to succeed in this campaign, I can keep it going for as long as I want. I can make it a thing where no one can say, "Oh, this series is going to end at issue 10." No one can say you have to wrap it up by this point. I'm going to keep going as long as people keep reading it until I'm done. When I come to my end, I can finish it, and that's that showed me that it succeeded and that it continues to grow. That showed me that Kickstarter isn't where I should take the failed pitches. Kickstarter is where I should take my most valuable ideas. That's the place to really thrive. And I've taken that with me, and yeah, it does also help that it's in the DM. Being in comic shops reaches, frankly, a different audience. There's some overlap between Kickstarter and the comic shop, but like you said, there are people who shop in Kickstarter who are not going to be in the shop. There are people who are in the shop that are not going to go on Kickstarter, and that's it's just hitting two audiences in a way that that is meaningful to me, because I want as many people as possible to read the book. That's my end goal, is to have the book read and hopefully enjoyed. But if you read it and don't enjoy it, right? So
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. It's my
yeah,
show. So if you want to
yeah,
tell somebody to fuck off, be my guest.
yeah. I mean, I want everyone to enjoy it, but I'm not going to change a word. And that was one of my deals with Black Mask, was that if you want to publish it, I'm gonna do it my way. Don't not a single word changes. If it isn't that book, if it's a new creator-owned thing, I'm happy to hear any input. But this book, leave me alone, dude. And they do, which is beautiful.
Yeah, and obviously you're doing something special with this book, and that's kind of how I know you outside of Zenescope, where
Yeah.
I don't know you from IDW, I don't know you from other things, but I know this book because I've seen it all over the place. And it's weird when you're on Twitter and you see this book, and I'm like, I know who Pat Chan is, and then that's how I came, and I'm like, oh snap, like that's the book of what I know you from, and it's very
Mm.
very cool in that regard. And
Cool.
obviously it's something that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I should probably get more of it.
Thank you. Yeah, that is great to me. I'm happy to have been discovered in multiple ways. That shows that doing multiple things that could work. It's always interesting to see what someone comes to my booth with at a convention. Some will say, what I get a lot is that people know me from live streams that I do sometimes, and they know my personality but not my work. Or some people will know me from my Marvel novels. And it always kind of surprises me where someone brings their knowledge of my work from. And it's always nice to see that it's kind of like various, it's Black Mask, Zenescope, and like just random things, which is, it's nice. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's weird how people know me from, in which that a bunch of people know me from a lot of financial podcasts that I'm on, and like, oh,
Yeah.
you're into comics too. That is the weirdest transition
Yeah.
ever. It's
Yeah.
like I'm talking about how to make money in comics, and they're like, you have a comic podcast too, and you're actually interviewing a bunch of the writers that I actually read. And oh, it's like, and I've had people come up and be like, are you Andrew from Pop Anime Comics? Like, well, I'm just sitting eating my lunch at a con. I'm not a guest or anything,
Yeah.
but like they just look and they're like, yo, are you that guy? It's like the weirdest thing ever to me. So
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I was going through your channel. I saw that you had, you've interviewed some big names, and you've had cool conversations. I was playing a few of them while I was working before, just to like get a sense of like the kind of questions that you ask. And yeah, I could definitely see people tuning in and enjoying your stuff, man. It's nice.
yeah, no, I have very interesting people on my show, and it's
Definitely.
been a very, very, very interesting year so far.
I love
And
it.
on my other show, it's even more interesting who I've had on. So I've had people like Danny O'Neill on, and Paul Levitz, and
Hmm.
Howard Cruz, and some Trina Robbins, Chris Ryle, who you may or may not be a fan of. It's all right.
Oh, Chris?
It's a joke. It's a
Oh,
joke.
Dude, yeah, I love Chris.
I love Chris
Yeah.
too.
Chris is I owe him a lot as far as where I am in my career. That man gave me a chance based off of nothing, dude. He you know, I was a fan. I was a reviewer. I wrote interviews for guys like him on the Angel books, and he gave me a chance to pitch for their last ever book on that title. For I mean, because he was a nice guy pretty much. And yeah, I will always think positively about that dude. He's
Well,
great.
I like Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Chris has always been good to me. I just asked, and I asked him on Tumblr of all places for an interview, and that's how I got him as an interview
Yeah,
a
he's the man.
while back. So it's kind of weird how you find people, but yeah,
He's the
no,
man.
and I actually do need to talk to him with his new company with Ashley Wood.
Yeah.
They're
Dude, Chris, I mean, I'm sure you know, but that guy, beyond being an editor, publisher, he can write as well. Dude, Groom Lake. Groom Lake with Ben Templesmith, that book was incredible. Really good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that he's worked on, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to what he does next because he's got something up his sleeve coming.
Oh yeah, he did also he did a comic based on Weekly World News with Batboy, which was funny.
Yeah, no, I don't know everything that Chris has done, but I know that Chris has booked a lot of things for IDW and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
good chunk. Like there's like a good like 8 years of IDW stuff that like he's been a part of. It's amazing, and so obviously, but I do want to get back to the
Yeah.
Kickstarter now.
Yeah.
Is what we got going on here, and as I stated, you are completely funded. It's your
Yep.
first day funding ever. You're over 9 grand now, so joke inserted, please. But obviously, for those who don't know, what is Prison Witch? Because I know this is the third volume, but what is the pitch for those who don't know?
All right. The very short pitch is it is Orange is the New Black meets the craft. A bit longer of a pitch is it is about a woman named Cam Rivers who she's arrested following an assault. She blames the assault on what she believes is a demon. She believes that she's possessed and has been for years. She's haunted by the ghost of a little girl who burns when she gets angry. So at prison, she goes to a coven of witches for help. And while there, they help her discover the truth of what this spirit is and how it might be, more of a part of her than she realizes.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And then obviously, and we're going to dive into the story in a second here. Just distracted by my dog, everybody.
Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Sorry, but obviously there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on here. And,
I mean,
you
they
know,
heard it. It's all good, man.
it's one of those days.
Yeah.
But where did this idea even come from? Because obviously we're dealing with prison, we're dealing with a witch, we're dealing with spirits,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of moving pieces here, and it's
Yeah.
a intense book.
Yeah, this idea came from my wife. We write it together, and one day she said, "What if we do a story about witches in prison?" And I thought about it, and I said, "Prison Witch, let's go," And and from that point on, we developed it together, mostly in text. I remember Amy would text me an idea for a character, like she made up Rizzo, who is the coven leader. She's a green witch, and I texted back, how about Cat Lady? She is someone who she's an animal rights activist who went to a kill shelter and shot it up, and she's one of the characters now too. And
We'll talk all about this. This is fucking awesome.
yeah, so we were texting that way and figuring out who the cast was, and then things that happened via text. Amy would be working, I would be driving, texting while driving, and I would just shoot an idea to her, and she would shoot one back, and that was the genesis of Prison Witch. But don't text and drive. Text at the stoplight.
So let's even talk about this because there's a lot of shit going on here in this book. And so there's a lot of stuff going on with Cam Rivers,
Yeah.
who is sort of the main character. She's got the spirit Namba or Namba.
No, yeah.
And so obviously, what was this like building her out? Because she's got sort of guilt for having this. She's also confused for
Yeah.
having this spirit. Bad things happen. She feels sort of cursed for having this spirit. And then something happens and she's sent to prison.
Right.
And well, now she's thrown into a whole disastrous position in
Right.
prison and shit's going down. And a lot of moving pieces here with her. So what was this like really building her and getting her acquainted and
Right.
also meeting people sort of?
Yeah. The idea of Cam comes from looking at life, how when things happen to us, it's so easy to blame something external, right? It's so easy to say, this happened to me in my life because of this. I'm this way because of this. This thing that I did is because of this. The idea of Cam is looking at someone who has a major problem and putting her on a journey to realize that this is her doing and what that means for her. What is it like? Can you find peace through admitting that you might be responsible for the worst aspects of your life? And that's it. That's Cam's story, this radical self-acceptance and, forgiveness of self by accepting your own flaws, and instead of rejecting them, nurturing them and nurturing yourself.
Yeah, and then obviously, it's one of those things in prison. And I'm a huge Larry Lawton fan, and he has a great YouTube channel. And I'm not being paid or anything. I just really like the way he talks, and he's
Yeah,
like one of like America's top jewel thieves. Really interesting guy. It'd be fascinating to have a conversation with him. But he talks a lot about prison life, and obviously Cam gets acquainted with that, and then she meets all of these interesting women.
right,
Obviously you have Cat Lady, who you were mentioning up, who's an animal activist slash
right,
mass murderer.
right.
And
Yeah,
sweet, sweet lady, apparently. Who knew?
I think so.
As long as you're not hurting an animal, you're good.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So what was that like building her out, and also just even coming up with that concept? Because you were telling the story about how you just came up with it, but like it's such an interesting, I guess, foil where she loves her animals, but if you
Yeah.
fuck with them, it's shotgun time.
Yeah, I like characters with duality where there is, if you look at them if you look at them in one way, you can say, "Oh, she did this horrible thing. This person is horrible because of this." I like the idea of introducing someone who does, something quote unquote unforgivable, and developing them in a way that it doesn't negate their negative qualities, but it adds nuance. There's I mean, it's not even just in stories now. There's a trend where we don't see people as people. We don't see people as nuanced beings. We on social media will look at someone as the sum of the worst things they've ever done or said. And to me, that's immoral, right? So my idea was to introduce a cast of characters who are in prison, some of them for, probably a good reason, some who might not be in prison for a good reason, some who might not deserve to be there. And telling their stories in the same way, having the same respect for the story of someone who might, Cat Lady, is it safe for her to be in society? Probably not. But I think that her story is interesting to tell, and that someone like that who has done something horrible shouldn't be written off. We should have those stories told, and we should accept those. We have this tendency to see people as monsters, but people aren't monsters. It's scarier when someone who we see as a monster is actually a person. That's scarier to me.
It's very easy to vilify the enemy and then dehumanize them, because then you
Yeah,
can take them out. It's a weird concept,
yeah,
and some people don't understand that concept. That if I don't view and if I don't view something as another human, I can act differently towards it. I don't
yeah,
act the same way to my dog that I act to my parents. And I love my dog, and don't get me wrong, everybody, but it's a very, very different thing because I see my parents as people. But if somebody goes so far, it's the idea that if the second I stop seeing somebody as a person, I could scream at them, I could yell at them, I could,
yeah.
hurt them because
Yeah.
now they're not. going to bleed the same way. It's a very interesting philosophical thought.
Yeah, but I will say this though. I do have, I wouldn't do what she did. I have a bit of cat lady in me though, in that say, you know, Raven Gregory is one of my best friends in the world, dude. I love Raven.
Oh, I
But
love Raven too, but
but if that motherfucker was hanging from a cliff and so was the cat who was here before, you know, cat's got to be saved first, dude. It's my responsibility, And I love Raven. I love Raven.
you
But
should text him that he needs some stand up.
dude, I will say, even though this is like my like interview here, you're asking me questions. I want to just take a little slice of time, if it's cool, for Raven Gregory, and just say that dude did something that it's unimaginably hard for me. He went on stage and did a comedy bit, and I'm so fucking proud of that bitch ass motherfucker. To do that, that takes guts, it takes balls. And to me, even though I'm more of a G, he'll always be a G in my eyes for doing that. He is amazing to me.
Yeah, no. I thoroughly enjoy Raven, and with
Man.
Karis, it's amazing what he did with Karis. And if you haven't seen my interview with Raven,
Yeah.
I'm pretty intoxicated
Oh yeah.
at that interview. It's one of the only interviews where I'm drunk. Raven is something. I don't know what Raven is, unless that's just
Yeah.
normal Raven. And it's a fascinating interview about talking about real
Yeah.
issues and real components and real understanding and a variety of other things that exist. So very, very cool interview, and
Yeah.
gives a lot of insight into me and him.
I could imagine. I mean, I've done 2 podcasts with Raven, and by the end of it, you already know. He it's he puts you on quite a journey. Raven does.
Oh, I knew where we were going, and yeah, I recommend people listen to that interview because it's up there. It's up.
Yeah.
It's early season 1, I think,
I'm gonna
or
watch
maybe
it.
early season 2. It's one of the either or, and a real interesting discussion about life and about people and about loss, and very, very fascinating. And you cannot have the same opinion of me after that interview.
Yeah.
It is impossible because what I'm talking about and the conversation is just the way it is.
I'm gonna watch it for sure,
And
man.
you have a new respect for me and everything that I've been through. So that's all I'm going to say. And if you saw my interview with Travis and that show, well, you need to have a new respect for me. So having said that, but yeah, no, it's very cool, and I don't know if I could do that, but then again, I stand on crutches, so it's real problem for me to do stand up comedy.
Oh boy. Yeah, yeah, I watched his set and I was like, that's my dude right there. Yeah, really cool. Really cool.
See, I figured I'd throw that joke in there. Of course, I would not tell any of my little bit because it would get you and me both canceled.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm not being canceled, so if you want to go off, I'll just sit here and listen to you. But
I have sponsorship money and I have Kickstarter money on the line right now.
I hear you.
So, and I need that money badly.
Oh, I hear you, man.
I need that money badly right now to keep going. So I'm just gonna zip a lip here. But even going further into these characters and talk about Rizzo because
Yeah.
I think of Grease when I hear that name, and she's just a boss bitch.
Yeah, she is the Coven Mother. She is a Green Witch. We wanted someone who was, you always associate when you think of magic and you think of the person in charge, you think of this like intense badass. We wanted a badass who was also a gardener, dude, and and the idea that she is both, as you said, she's the boss bitch, she's in charge, but she's the healer too. We wanted that role for her where she facilitates things because Cam is the one who has the power. Rizzo facilitates things in a more nurturing and cerebral way. And we're exploring her in major ways and sort of challenging the audience's perception of her in volume 3. That's going to be coming out. It's on Kickstarter now. It's going to be shipping next year. Right.
Yeah, and I don't want to ruin too much because obviously I want people to actually go back to Kickstarter. But then there's Kayla or Kyla.
Oh,
Um,
Kalia, yeah.
Maria, wow, I can't speak today. Who is a sex shop owner, a lover, and a fighter, and that's a fun one too. And talk about duality, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, she you work at a sex shop, you're bound to get both respectable clientele and creeps coming in. And one day she snapped. She had enough of this one specific creep, and she took a big dildo and she beat him up with it. And so that led to her having an assault charge. And she's in prison. She has of everyone in prison, she is the one who is least deserving of it. She's the most well adjusted. Even in prison, she has a healthy relationship. She is a highly functioning member of society who is unfairly kept here. And we explore some of that for sure with her, and how she of all the characters is the one who should be on the outside and is going to be functioning quite well, but when she actually does get out, if she gets out.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on. Obviously, volume one of this sort of deals with them all getting adjusted and knowing each other.
Yeah.
Volume two is dealing with an enemy witch who is not on this covenant side. And
Right.
then
Right.
volume three is dealing with the complete, I guess, consequences of what just happened and then some other
Right.
things. And the prison is in uproar, for lack of a better word.
Right. Yeah. Brings it all full circle and completes the story. Yeah.
And so obviously there's a lot of stuff going on, but one of the things that I think is super interesting is that obviously it's the prison environment. You're dealing with
Yeah.
all the social commentary of prison, who should be in there, who shouldn't be, what is it like to have a long stay in the joint, what is it like to have letters, which means life or pretty
Right.
close to life. And also, you're talking about society
Yeah.
because prison is society.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand, and I've studied prison culture, is prison culture and the outside culture are not that far apart from each other. And it's very interesting how, if you're reading this, it's very much an allegory for regular society, for lack of a better word. And so it's such interesting writing. And it's so cool just to read something because I like Orange is the New Black,
Yeah.
but
Me too.
I understand the other side of it. And so a lot of cool shit in this book.
Yeah, we watched a lot of documentaries too about prison and about how there are little injustices done to you. And we explore this in uh, a bit in volume two with one of the, she is seen by the core coven as a villain, but we explore what a day in her life is like and how not being able to get something so mundane can really set you off and really inform the way that you behave. And it's it could be seen as sort of this mundane torture that wears you down sometimes. And we want to depict it in a way where, you know, the goal is never to lead anyone toward believing a certain thing about anybody or any system. The goal is to depict something and leave it with the reader and have them think about it. And that is what I hope happens with Prison Witch.
Yeah, and I think that, a lot of people have an idea of what this stuff looks like. And I think this sort of sheds a new light on it. And
Yeah.
it's very interesting. And even to go off of that, because one of the things on Kickstarter is that there is now starting to become a lot more diversity in stories
Yeah.
in comics and in particular in Kickstarter. And I'm looking at diversity and I'm looking at a lot of different books saying, what is a different story? What is a different way to look at something? Because I've read every apocalypse story out there. I've read every cyberpunk story. I'm not looking to read another cyberpunk story. As much as I like the genre, I
Yeah.
played Cyberpunk 2077 and I've read one cyberpunk comic. I don't need any more of that.
Yeah.
But I haven't read something like this. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's something that I think people are really gravitating towards saying, this is interesting and this is different. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't, but I'm willing to try it.
Right. And that's why I've done a lot of work in various genres. Um my goal with my creator on stuff is to introduce a concept that would appeal to a fan of that kind of story and then deliver that subtext, right? Like Destiny New York, it is at its core what you see, it's a magical romance, right? What it really is, though, it is me wondering for thousands of pages what it means to accept that we all die and to really try to live with the idea of death and explore it in every way possible. How
Makes me
that,
make me depressed now.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
it could be depressing, but I want to do it too in a way where it shows not only the fear and the sadness, but the grace of it all too. You know, when you sort of when you accept the idea that everything is going to end and what's next, if anything, is a mystery. So
So I've
that
used
enriches the daily life. That makes every day something that you want to invest in, and that's part of the core of Destiny New York. It's much more, to me, it's more question than it is answer.
So I view Destiny, and I've only read 2 volumes of it, where what happens when you asked a bunch of questions and then you've run out of answers. That's how I viewed it. Where there's a famous quote in House by 13, where House is looking for a bunch of answers, and 13 says, "When you run out of answers, what happens?"
Yeah,
And meaning that there's still more questions, and that she's testing and pushing House and saying, you're living that once you have all the answers, you're not gonna have a reason to live anymore.
yeah,
And while I think 13 is saying, well, you find a bunch of new questions to ask. And that's how I view Destiny New York in a lot of ways, where it's this idea saying, okay, what questions? I got 10 answers for all my things that I want to know. What are the next 10 questions? And
yeah,
so
yeah,
I viewed it slightly different, but obviously that I have a different interpretation, and I haven't read the other 3 volumes, so that might be why. And
yeah.
that,
It really it does. Volume one is a fun love story with fantasy elements. Volume two pushes it more toward, what it's going to be. Uh, it does very much become a different book as we go along, and that was always the intention, is to use Logan, who is the core character. She is the lead. Use Logan as our way in, and then spread out from her. I want it so anyone that she interacts with, even passes by, we could follow them and see what their life is like and explore the themes of the book through them as well. There's a scene in not chapter, in volume one, um, where she has had this character Augustine, who is her coworker at the coffee shop, right? um for the first few times that we see him as, oh, he's her friend. When we have her talking to him, that's the way that she talks about what's going on in her life. And I don't ever want to do that. So as soon as I was like, all right, we've done that 3 times. Now this time, instead of following her home, we follow him home and see what's good with him and bring his life into it. And from that point on, I wanted to do that with everybody, and to bring everyone, every supporting character then becomes the main character, and have it that way, and explore these ideas through the entire cast. So we have a different take on it in every chapter.
no, it's beautiful, and it's a real writing skill, and I'm pissed that I can't write as well as you do. So
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you very much. It's been a lot of practice, a lot of work and time.
I'm now corrupted as a writer because I know how to write governmentally and I know how to write interviews. And that is like the antithesis of creative writing, right? By definition, where knowing how to write a governmental report is an amazing skill, but it is legitly not creative writing.
I
It
hear
is
you.
understanding how to write something in 4 sentences that is, and then that should be written in 400 pages is the
Right.
essential. Yeah. I used to write what are known as general provision reports. So I would take about maybe 300 pages of research and condense it down into 5 pages.
God damn, that's crazy.
Real skill, real skill.
Yeah.
I was making good money doing it too. when you're making like 25, $30 an hour doing that, it's not bad.
Bad at
40
all.
hours a week, it's a pretty damn good salary. Um,
Nice.
and nobody's yelling at me, and it's nice. And I have a nice quiet office, listen to music all day. It's wonderful. I
Yeah.
wish I
I
still
mean,
had.
yeah, it's fun to not be yelled at. That's for sure.
Yeah, oh, it's amazing. It's my standards are so low, guys. My standards are so low. Don't yell at me. Just have some tea in the office. I could come in at 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning. As long as I get my 8 hours in, my standards are low. Have like a plug to plug in my phone charger. I mean, my standards are minimal.
Yeah, I mean, even in what I do, there's yelling. There's yelling in what I do. I actually just had a conversation with Raven 2 days ago. I read I reread what he did on the Dracula's Daughter miniseries, and I called him, and I was like, "Bitch, you killed the characters that I created so disrespectfully," and but yeah, it's all jokes though. The only person I've yelled at in comics is my good friend Larry Watts, who drew Robin Hood. I was so sad that he couldn't stay on to do the ongoing series. He started and did issue number 1, and then when 2 came, he didn't have time for it. The deadline was too soon, so I called him. And I was just like, no, come on, dude, please, and it was just, it was intense. But, I had to say goodbye.
It happens. It's unfortunate. Sometimes, gotta just let people go and they're off to the races and never say never, right?
Yeah.
But even going further into all of this, and obviously, it's very cool, and I think that you've done something very interesting with, obviously Destiny New York, and even with Prison, which is that the book matures with its audience,
Yeah.
and I think you Prison Witch, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think the first one was released 2 years ago, or was it released a year ago, or even before that.
Oh, Prison Witch, the first one, let's see, we kickstarted it in 2017. I believe it came out in November 2017 or January 2019.
So typically, it's 3-4 years is what this has been going on, and
Yeah.
obviously in that time, your audience has grown with the book, and I think the book in nature has matured and has gotten more and more intense, and the issues in both Destiny New York and Prison Witch have grown in that way too. So what is that like? Because it's a real skill when creators understand that their audience is becoming older. I don't know if you're familiar with the show Ruby by any chance.
No, no.
RWBY. Well, the brief summary is that the show started off very fun in the first volume, became a little bit more intense in the second, and by the third, they went completely dark.
Yeah.
Because if you came into the show when you were 12, you know, 16 episodes every single year, you're now 15, and the show is meant for a 16-year-old now.
Right.
All of a sudden, and then volume 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Obviously, now if you start when you're 12, 8 years later you're 20, and that show is perfect for you.
Yeah.
And it's a real cool thing because nobody's aging out of that show, and
Yes.
it's a very cool thing when that occurs.
Yeah, it's a very emotional experience because we have our cast spans multiple ages. We have a cast who start the series in high school, and we have a part of the cast that starts the series in their late 20s. So as we develop, we see the various cast members aging in different ways and entering in different phases of their lives. And it has been emotional to realize, wow, we've carried this character through an arc and they came out different. And I mean, in Destiny New York, the character Joel Rowlands, he started as a Harry Potter parody. He was created as a joke. And the challenge in making him a character and giving him an intense arc that was rewarding and tragic and that made him human when he started as a bit was really rewarding. And that is, that long-term storytelling is what I've always loved. And I feel lucky that the book has been supported in a way that allows me to do that. That allows me to tell a story that goes beyond a volume 1 and arc 1 and issue 5, and just tell thousands of pages of comics. And it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, and I think very few people get to do that, and also very few people get to do it on their terms, which
Yeah.
is something that is really cool. It's one of the things is that what my show and what I think people don't understand, and I'm very grateful for it, is that, and oddly enough, all the people who bought spots and guaranteed spots, I would say 98% of them are really, really good quality people. And it's weird where a lot of people who bought spots are really good and they have really interesting projects. But I'm also now starting to define my own terms in a lot of ways and saying, hey, who do I want on my show? Why do I want on my show? And things of that nature. And I get asked all the time, and nothing personal against anybody. I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but it's my show and you need to be of a certain quality, or you need to have a certain project, or your project needs to be different than everybody else's project out there. And I want to do things on my terms. And oddly enough, getting funded on Kickstarter and having the ability to do this show on my terms, it's a very, very cool thing. And I didn't think that was possible.
Cool.
So,
Yeah. I mean, thank you for having me on then.
yeah, no, I was happy to have you on because a lot of the people this year, I'm doing about 150 to 160 interviews, and there's about 40 spots that are picked up. So about 75% of this show is my choice.
Yeah.
Completely my choice. And so that's one of the things that I'm figuring out is that I want to pick the best of the best who I think are good and who deserve to be on and who are doing interesting things in comics. And it's something that I think people don't figure out, is that doing something on your terms is so much cooler and so much more important than doing something on somebody else's terms. And if somebody said, Andrew, do you want to write Batman? The answer is yes, of course. If DC came to you and said, do you want to do 6 issues on Batman? The answer is of course.
Yeah.
But it's the idea that whenever I want to write a story, I want to write my story.
Yeah.
But I'll write Batman too. So
yeah, that's how I feel about working for other companies. Like right now, this week when I'm having this creator-owned Kickstarter, at the same time, I'm also doing work for hire, and that is, it's part of paying the bills, and it's also fun. I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I would figure out something else. But I think that balance of creator-owned and work for hire, it isn't for everyone, but for me, I really enjoy it.
And also, some of the work for hire, like Zenescope, is a blast to do, and it's just a cool company to work for. And it's also really respectable, and also that cover art is amazing. And it's one of those things where that like Ivan Tow's on the cover for you, or you've had all these books that have exclusives. You wrote one of my favorite comic books by Elias Chazudis, did the cover of Firefight Sexy Samantha. And she's
yeah
yeah, right. You know the book I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She's in front of the Flatiron building. She's got her like pink thongs up and the fire straps. It's great.
Oh, it's funny. Yeah.
I have a dirty mind. Okay, I actually had him do a commission of Van Helsing in that same style for me, and it came back as a 9.8 graded.
Oh, nice. That's great. That's awesome.
It's an awesome picture, but I think he took it down on Instagram, and I don't know why he did such a thing.
I mean, it might have gotten flagged,
That could have been it too.
Yeah. Instagram can be wild like that.
I mean, it wasn't nudity. It was pushing the line, though.
Yeah, sometimes they just don't like, like tit, just, I mean, what they flag, they have that system that like scans for shapes, and if something looks like a bit too titty, they'll be like, nah, no, gotta pull it.
I'm surprised Steph Wilson is still allowed on Instagram.
Oh yeah?
I don't know if you know who Steph Wilson is.
Nah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna show you Steph Wilson's Instagram after this fact, and you're gonna be so shocked, and you're gonna want to cover for him on your next project.
Nice.
Oh, my mom, he's great. He was just on my show. He's like new school pinup style to the max. It's like Betty Boop softcore porn, like pinup style. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, this is like the greatest tangent ever because I wanted to talk about rewards with your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So you got digital books. Obviously, you get this book digitally pretty cheaply. I think it's like $10. You get the catch-up pack. Wow, I can't speak. The catch-up packet or catch up, not
It
the.
sounds so close to catch a packet. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It just played back in my head. You can get all digitally caught up for like $30.
Right.
There's the paperback, which is right here.
Yes.
And then there's this one right here, which is the variant, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is a Jen St. Ange variant. She's doing my company Space Between Entertainment. Every Kickstarter that we do will have a Jen's Gems variant. That's her brand for our campaigns this year. Starting in here, there'll be 6 total. That is her first one.
Mm-hmm. And I think Jen has worked on a bunch of stuff like Gem and the Misfits, IDW, and
yeah,
I don't know all of her work, but there's a lot.
Definitely one of my favorites for sure. She is an incredible talent.
And so obviously I think it's very cool because I think people don't do trade paperback or hardcover variants, and I think that's nice, especially on a Kickstarter, because it makes it different.
Yeah, and I keep it low too. You know, I don't because the single issue market is where the collectible variants are. So as far as doing a different cover on here, I keep it very close to the same price as the standard, just so anyone who wants the cover can get it. I'm not trying to make anything super limited. I just want multiple options. And also, if you want both, there's a tier for that too.
Yeah, and then there's also, as I was saying, a complete digital thing.
Right.
Obviously, there's a book plate so that you could sign it,
That's
or
right.
you can get a pin with the book. There's some prints. There's this art thing.
Yeah.
And then there's this one as well, and so that's cool for people who want that stuff with their books.
Yeah.
And then there's some other cool stuff where obviously there's a bunch of combo deals where you can get everything digital, you get both books, you get I think the pin, you can get a bit of everything, and most of this stuff is relatively affordable.
Oh yeah, we keep it low. You know, in the past, I would do these bigger, grander tiers with multiple, prints and pins and just these expensive tiers. And the more I thought, I was like, no, I want to give something for the completionist that they can get everything in one fell swoop and not, spend a whole paycheck.
Yeah, because one of the things that's a gripe for me, and I don't know if it's for you, and I haven't backed all that many Kickstarters. I think I've backed like 38, maybe 40 at this point. Is at a certain point, I run out of money, and at a certain point, I don't want to spend all my discretionary income on one Kickstarter, but I still want value. And I feel that there's a concept where you could drain somebody completely bone dry. And then if you're going to run another Kickstarter in 2 months from now, if you drain me bone dry the first time, I might not have money in the coffer for the second one. It's kind of like, you could milk the cow and you can milk the cow every other day, or you could kill the cow and get your complete money out of the cow, but the cow's not going to produce you milk anymore because it's dead. And there's a concept, I think, where some people in Kickstarter feel like they don't get that. Like with my Kickstarter, I'm running once a year. Maybe I'm going to run twice a year at some point, but my tiers are really low for the most part. So I'm not trying to kill my customer. And I think it's a problem.
Right. And that's, it's been a learning curve for me too. I used to charge more too to get drawn into the book. But now since I've found that it's a bit easier to do and just to plan, I charge way less, and I more want to reward the repeat reader than I do just really just, hit someone hard with a crazy expensive tier. Even if it has a bunch of stuff, I would rather deliver a more concise reward that's affordable consistently than just do this one big hit,
Yeah, and I also think it's the idea that if you're running a bunch of campaigns, and I think you're running at least 6 this year, you want repeat customers. And if you completely drain somebody dry,
right,
as I was stating, if I was to run a Kickstarter every single month and charging $50 for an interview, somebody might jump on it the first time, but there might be a point where they're like, I need another interview, but I'm bone dry now.
Yeah,
And I'm in that situation where I am definitely being selective on Kickstarter. And I haven't had a Kickstarter that has completely run me bone dry, but at the
right.
same time, money can only go so far, I feel.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, it's true. If I was, after money and was money hungry, I'd probably be in a different hobby. There is money in comics, but I my main goal is to deliver meaningful stories and to, of course I want to make a living off of it. But number one, the reason I chose not even just comics, but to write for a living is to tell stories that matter to people as much as they matter to me. And I think that treating repeat readers with respect and with, I mean, number one, communication, especially on Kickstarter, it is key. This is something that more creators should listen to. It is key to communicate. If you're going to be late, which, I mean, with everything going on right now, books are idling at port for months. So it's less a matter of if you're going to be late versus if you print overseas when you're going to be late. Just communicate. Personally, my choice is I'll do no matter what's going on in the campaign, no matter how much or how little I have to say, I do a monthly update. And if there's more to share, they'll get a second hit. But no matter what, at least every campaign that's active will hear from me monthly, no matter what. And that I think has legitimized me in a way where I've had campaigns that, for example, Vampire Emmy, I expected the books in November because the printer told me November, right? Books were here in the country in November, but they were on a boat for 2 months. And could I have anticipated that? No, it's not something that I would have in my worst nightmares thought about. Two months was far beyond any projection. However,
I had a friend, and she and her husband, I could say who they are. It's Santine Phoenix and Jackson Stone.
hmm,
And Santine's the queen of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. And one of the things that they had a book that was 6 weeks in a warehouse in China because they
so it
couldn't
goes.
find a boat.
Yeah.
They couldn't find a boat, and then it was another 2 weeks once they found a boat, and then that boat took like 3 to 4 weeks to get over, and then it had to be unpacked. So now
Yeah.
we're talking like 3, 4 months late
That's how it
because
goes. That's how it
and
goes.
they just kept everybody updated. And I think the same problems happening with the Kickstarter Deo, but that they just fulfilled with Santine's
Yeah.
book. But I don't really care. I'm not worrying about that because it's not like I'm flipping the book.
Yeah.
But I know
Yeah.
people who do flip comics and indie comics. And look, if I just spent $600 for some rare books, I want to know where they are because it's a lot of
Yeah.
money. And that's the other thing too is that with somebody that I bought, I spent a lot of money, about $100, and I'm like, where are you in this project? I'm not canceling my pledge. I just want to know where we're at because this was supposed to be here 2 months ago, and I just spent
Yeah.
$100. That's my problem. And it's a
Yeah.
limited 50, and the longer it's in the mail, the more wrong shit can go wrong with it.
Yes. And it's important not only, and this is, I don't know if this is just my opinion, so I'll speak for myself. To me, it's important not only for that creator, but for crowdfunding, indie crowdfunding as a whole. It hurts because I'll see people paint crowdfunding with one wide brush. With I was screwed on this campaign. This creator never updates, and that for that person delegitimizes the entire platform, which
Oh,
I don't think it's fair. It's to me, it's not fair, but
I
it
got
should be.
no problem admitting that
Yeah,
I backed the campaign in 2017. Person. We reached 15,000. We were supposed to all these stretch goals, all this stuff. The book came damaged, came 16 to 17 months late, and he's like, "Oh, all these people, canceled their pledge," and I'm like, "Bullshit." What I think happened is I think he was building an imprint, and I think he ran out of money and he used the money, and why the book was late was not because there was a problem at the printer, because he was building an imprint and guy's not on Kickstarter, he's on Indiegogo now. And it's not that hard to figure out who this guy is. And he publishes a lot of people's books who are legends in comics and
Yeah.
some good content. But I didn't back a Kickstarter for 3 years because of that. It was that bad where I had such a horrible experience on my first Kickstarter that almost a year and a half late, and then what you promised wasn't delivered. And even not even saying, man, I'm throwing some stickers in there or something, or coming up with another stretch goal. And I get that stretch goals aren't guaranteed, but his funding was $5,000. We reached 15,000. If you're having and you can't deliver on your stretch goals, and I'm like, where the fuck are these stretch goals, man? Like, what the fuck? Like, you didn't tell us. You didn't think. Like, I probably would have said, I want a refund, and if that's the case. And that guy lost my business. And if you go to his Kickstarters, there's hundreds and hundreds of negative comments.
Yeah. And that kind of thing can be mitigated by being communicative, by talking to the backers the way that they deserve. Even, dude, I've seen creators make major mistakes. I've seen creators ghost to campaign, get, as you said, a page full of negative comments. Then they'll come back and say, I was going through a hard time. I'm so sorry. And then create a plan to deliver. In almost every situation, the backers are forgiving. People are scared of upsetting backers for no reason. And that fear drives them to not communicate. And then that's the thing that actually gets backers pissed, is the lack of communication. It's going to be so much better for all indie creators, for all Kickstarters, if everyone just communicates. Leave the fear behind, and open and honest communication with backers how they deserve has always been my thought. And that is very important.
Yeah, it's something I need to do on my campaign, clearly, in which that I
do it, man. Do it tonight.
I'm gonna send out an update, and then, you know, it is. I'm not making any moves until I get my funds, as far as ordering.
Oh yeah, of course not. Yeah.
And so it's only been like 7 days since my campaign ended. I started sending out surveys, and I'm gonna probably finish that up in the next 2 days. And I'm just gonna let all my backers know that, hey, your surveys are in your thing, and we're gonna proceed from there. And then, you know, once I get my money, I'm gonna order what I need, and then I'm gonna get it out as soon as it comes in. But it's probably, and I'm going to let everyone know, saying, hey guys, it's probably going to be late because everything's messed up. I'm going to get it to you as fast as I can get it, but I'm anticipating I'm going to be 2 to 3 weeks late.
Oh yeah, that's nothing. You know, that's life. You know, I do see that people will be more understanding, which is kind of weird to me. People will be more understanding when a major corporation is late versus when a single indie person is late. So it's the indie person's obligation to realize that if the customer, if the reader can talk to you and have a personal relationship with you, they expect more from you. It's your responsibility to meet that, in my thought.
Yeah, and also my Kickstarter is weird because my fulfillment is going to be all year long. Because when you're fulfilling people's different guest spots, you know, somebody wants something in legitimately like June of this year. So my whole thing's a little bit different, where fulfillment for me, but everybody has that survey, and there are people who are booked about 6 weeks from now. So it's kind of cool. But hey, you know, once you have that survey, it's your responsibility to fill it out.
Yeah.
And I'll remind everybody every single month, hey, so-and-so, fill it out. You know, I want to interview you. You threw money at me. I didn't throw money at you.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say. But obviously, even going back to this, you also have, you know, 20 digital graphic novels.
Yeah.
Pretty cheap up there. Obviously, you mentioned they get drawn in there. Obviously, combo deals. Lots of fun stuff is in there. So, and then there's like, I don't know what other stretch goals you have. I barely looked at your campaign, you know.
That's all good, man. Yeah, the stretch goals have yet to be revealed. Pretty much we funded and I hopped on here. Yeah.
We should have totally just cut the Zenescope. We should have just thrown you a launch party and it would have been great.
right? You know, I will say though, one thing I can say that isn't a stretch goal, it's just a freebie that isn't listed on the campaign because I told Destiny New York backers first. If you back the Prison Witch campaign, you are getting the first ever Destiny New York trading card for free. Um, so that'll be a little freebie there. It's going to be the Destiny New York trading card game. And I'm going to do at least one card per campaign starting now for free.
No, that's good, and obviously, free shit's always fun. I appreciate free shit.
Oh yeah.
I also appreciate, free shit that's actually useful. You know,
Yeah.
I appreciate, somebody who has a trading card game and they're actually saying, "Here's a trading card," because that's actually useful and actually has an
Yeah.
application use.
Yeah, beautiful piece of art, you know. Yeah.
It's kind of like an NFT that's actually a usable NFT.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot of fun stuff's coming down with this, and yeah, no, I'm very excited for it. And then we have to talk about the final thing, which is your tattoo.
Oh, which one? This one?
Yeah. What's the story behind that one?
So this one actually needs to get redone. I'm not sure who knows this, but certain colors you can have an allergic reaction to. And that happened to me here. It is the Robin Hood arrow from the 7th cover. Manuel Pretano did this one. It's the arrow directly from that cover, rerun by the tattoo artist. And I did it in the exact color of the cover, that is. And within a day or so, my entire arm had bubbled up. Uh, so the color didn't really stay. So I'm going to get it redone over a bit more of a traditional green so I don't get sick, you know? But yeah, that's my Robin Hood tribute.
No, because you were talking about it with Ralph on one of these virtual live streams, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's my Robin Hood tribute. Yeah, I should get a Destiny Year tattoo. I just don't know what and where. I'm gonna get next probably a Sopranos tattoo with my wife Amy. We're gonna get the quote, "What are you gonna do?" Somewhere, and I'm thinking two of the 6 feet under tree at some point. But yeah, just little tattoos here and there.
well, I am probably never gonna get a tattoo because I'm terrified of needles. So
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. It when I got it, it you know, I'm not sure how deep your phobia runs. It didn't feel like it does when you get a shot, when you get blood taken. It more feels like a consistent buzz, and then rip.
no, I have a great fear of needles, bees, and heights. I'm
You
perfectly fine with sharks.
okay?
There's a lot of
You know what's funny is that the needle and the bee thing might kind of overlap with the tattoo because that little buzz action going. You know?
my phobia for bees
Yeah.
and for needles runs deep. I am not a fan of either one of them, and
I
I
hear
am
you.
not a good patient with shots.
Oh, I mean, yeah, shots are hard, dude. Shots are hard. I empathize.
And then if we basically get bees, needles, and we put them on top of stairs and put me on top of a stair or an
Yeah,
escalator, we're
that's rough.
fucked. We're
That's rough.
fucked.
Yeah.
That's the end of everything. I'll just be like, nope. I don't
Yeah.
care what you put at the top of the escalator or the bottom of the escalator. If I have to go through all three of those things, nope.
That's
I'm
rough.
good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I
Yeah.
got no problem with a lot of other things. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Now, if there was a firefighter sexy Samantha at the top of the escalator or the bottom of the escalator, I might consider. Just saying. I
That's
might.
brave. That's brave.
You have a 9.8 of that book, though. So,
Yeah.
so, so, so I might decline if I have that 9.8. Now, if it's my 9.8 up there, you're going to see me dashing off all the way.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I digress right there. And I do want to back out of everything that you're doing. And I do want to talk about Kickstarter. And more importantly, I am curious how you view Kickstarter because obviously you're doing very well on Kickstarter and your campaigns do over 10,000 for the most part. There's a good chance this one's going to do over 20 to 30,000 the way it's going. And so where do you view Kickstarter going? Because Obviously, I'm on Kickstarter, and I enjoy Kickstarter.
Yes.
I enjoy it both as a service and, for me and funding, and I enjoy it as a consumer.
Yes.
Recognize there's issues going forward with Kickstarter in a lot of ways. Sustainability is a big one, oversaturation, and some other things. Blockchain is going to change everything apparently, and there's also the issue of fulfillment and supply chain problems.
So, um, a lot of my answer to that is, you know, Kickstarter isn't the core issue there because the comics industry itself, indie comics, is going through the same thing as far as the supply chain things. I've had, the Destiny New York trade through Black Mask is even more delayed than the Vampire Emmy trade was at port. Once the world is back to normal, that part of things is going to go smoothly, and I do believe that we're headed back to normal. I do believe that things are going to pick up again, and things are backed up and it's going to be slow for a while. I think that we're headed toward a place where we'll be a functioning society again. As far as Kickstarter goes, I think that Kickstarter is the best thing to ever happen to indie comics. I think that it puts the power in the creator's hands, and I have seen it through all those challenges. I have seen it do nothing but grow. I hear a lot of, my fellow indie creators sometimes worry about big publishers, big names coming to Kickstarter. There was a big to do over damn
Keanu Reeves.
dude, yeah, I almost said Kanye West. Over Keanu Reeves coming.
Hey, if Kanye wants to come on to Kickstarter, I'm the first one to back that.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Come on, Kanye, bring it on. Yeah, Keanu Reeves. People were saying, blaming his book on their book not funding. Meanwhile, in my opinion, from what I've observed on my campaigns and other campaigns, the more people come to Kickstarter, the more that oversaturation happens, the more a vibrant atmosphere it is. The more people are there, the more backers are there. Those big names don't take away from the little guy. They facilitate everything. And I think that it makes it a lot healthier.
Was that also that the people who are sort of bitching, if they're really saying why their book isn't selling?
Yeah.
Because one of the things is that I know why I got funded on my Kickstarter. I pushed it out like crazy. I hit up a lot of people, and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I'm sure there are things that I could have tweaked on my social media, and I could have been on a lot more shows and a lot of other things. But I know why I got funded. It's because I just kept pushing, and I also believed I was going to fund to some degree.
Yeah, you got to do the work. Got to do the work.
And I think some people are saying, look, my book isn't selling. I'm not making it. And you see them bitching about it and saying, oh, this person's stealing my money. Well, maybe they're not stealing your money. Maybe you're not earning your money. Maybe you're not bringing value to the table. Or maybe you're just targeting the wrong demographic. Or to say something even a little bit meaner, maybe your idea isn't fully fleshed out the correct way, which is also an issue where there's not enough trust in your comic idea or the artwork, or there's not enough for somebody to buy in, or maybe you picked a bad month to do it in.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that everyone who compares and says, why isn't my book doing this when that book does this? I look at their campaign and I go, who would want this? It's not designed for anybody. And it's hard for people to see outside of themselves. But I think, I like the idea of radical self-acceptance in a way that you look at what you do and your success or failure is a result of your own actions. It's not Keanu Reeves' fault, right? It's not Kickstarter's fault. It's not the fault of them bringing blockchain. It's you. The platform is what the platform is. Anyone can use it to win, and anyone could use it in a way that doesn't work for them, and they do. I think that Kickstarter is in a better place than it's ever been as far as people spending money on comics and people making comics on it. no matter what anyone thinks about the politics of what they're doing going forward, that's the thing. I don't even talk about it anymore because I feel that conversation is so, you know, Twitter takes the nuance out. Twitter really turns it into this, mob where there's nothing of weight or interest being said. There's the conversation there isn't productive, so I choose to not have it with the people having it there. I more want to look at Kickstarter and wonder, how are you going to make things better for people who are choosing to still use the platform and are choosing to grow their own business through the platform? And how are you making it so Kickstarter remains the best option? Because the truth is, if there's a better option, everyone should go there. Right now, it's the best option.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that that's something that is very very important. And yeah, so I want the best option as well. So obviously, that's kind of where I'm at in
Yeah,
a lot of ways. So yeah, yeah. Sorry, just give me one sec.
go for it. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Getting distracted here.
Oh, yeah.
It's noise, and it's just like it's terrible. Get distracted very easily. But yeah, no. And I agree. And I mean, I love Kickstarter. Just as I was stating, I think Kickstarter for me it's great because it's subsidized my income, and it's helped me build my platform and cover some expenses I have that allows me to continue to create what I want to create. I'm not looking to make money per se off of my podcast at the moment through Kickstarter at the very least. So obviously that's something that and I also think that there's issues of sustainability, but that's a different discussion where I feel like there are a little bit too many projects. And I know in March and April, it's going to be a bloodbath.
I always say, in my personal experience, I'm 22 campaigns deep. I'm thick in the mud here, dude. To me, the more the better. I've never seen a campaign launch the same day as me and thought, oh no. I don't think that way. I think that the more people see that campaign, they'll look down and see my shit. I think that the more I launch, they'll see Charlie Stickney, Bob Franson, Kevin Cuff. I think that, man, I think that the more the better. I think it really brings in more and more people with a snowball effect, building this community. And that is what it is. It's beyond just being a crowdfunding platform. It is it's
It,
the
it, it,
perfect it's
yeah.
the perfect mix of platform, community, and newsletter. It is the most highly functional newsletter because those updates that we do, those are targeted to people that we know by the books. That's great.
Oh, I think there's a lot of stuff in there. And I'm not knocking Kickstarter because Kickstarter is
Yeah.
a great data gathering point and a variety of other
Yeah.
things. I guess I'm in a different sense where I'm now becoming a lot more selective.
Oh
And
yeah.
so when all of a sudden 20 of my friends drop a book in March, I have $40. And that's the
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
I run into is that, and this is what I mean, this is my thought process, and I'm thinking on an individual level. And I
Right.
have friends who have limited funds too, and now we have to make a bunch of hard decisions. And that's where it
Right.
gets tricky is that it's if my friend, Larry Higgins drops a book, and then Travis drops a book, and then my friend Chuck drops a book, and then you drop a book in March. I then have to make that decision because I have limited economics when you're all dropping.
Oh yeah. I hear you. Here's what I think the creators should do to solve that problem is I I want to see more of this. More of, oh, you have a campaign in March. If someone can't get your March book, your July campaign should have the same chance to get that book, even if it isn't part of the series. Have it as an add-on, and that's important. Is to develop what is essentially, a recurring pop-up shop, and that's how I use Kickstarter. And I'm right about everything, so.
No. So yeah, fair enough. And I think also the idea is that I think certain creators understand that and certain don't. And I also think that if you're putting 150 of a book, it might make almost sense for you to take off and only make 130 of those available in the first run and keep 20
Yeah,
on the side, not necessarily even for conventions, but for that pop-up shop.
I
And I
agree.
also think that it's all right that if you say I'm only doing 100 of this book for this particular Kickstarter, and if we only sell 90, the other 10 are getting destroyed. I think that's fine to some degree too, but I think that if you have like 7 covers, keeping some of them around, I think is very, very important.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. But but yeah, so I guess that might be a solution in many ways.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I think it is, like I don't see it as a competition as far as like, oh, my buddy, oh, my cat's meowing for me. Um, he wants to come up. I don't see it as like, oh, so and so launched. I'm gonna you know, try to compete with him. I see it as more campaigns draw in more backers, and if you can't get me this time, you'll get me next time. It's all good. I think that it's not a race. It's a series of races, and yeah, every time that I come on Kickstarter, I'm gonna have the same shit plus new things to offer the next time. Um, my cat's asshole is right in the frame.
because this is how I view the podcast, and it's similar, but I also understand that it's a bit of a competition because I'm competing for your dollar, but I'm trying to earn your dollar with whatever I'm doing.
Yeah,
And so the way I view it is that the next time I run a Kickstarter for my podcast, I'm gonna have another season, another bunch of guests. I'm gonna have more, clout and more credibility. I'm
yeah,
gonna have the podcast side in play, which means more views, which means more viewership. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm not funding a book, but I mentioned I'm going to write a comic. I do the first issue, and then all of a sudden I have a second issue. Now I have issues 1 and 2, and then if I do 4 of those, and then I do a new series, well, I have the 4 over here, and then I
yeah,
have a new series, and then so on and so forth. And obviously, I think it's easier if it's your own material. And once you have like 4 or 5 series,
yeah.
offering all that in backer kit or as add-ons. That's something that I
Yeah,
think.
the add-ons I like for sure. And I do it you know, I feel like what I do too is different enough from what is the norm, like my 60-page graphic novels, and just my focus on graphic novels not as a trade collection but as, as an ongoing release. I don't see that happening a whole bunch. So I don't want to compete with someone else's campaign. I want to look at my previous campaign and go, all right, people back that. What can I do to make everyone who backed that and backs this have a better experience here? And then every time going forward, next time, I try to outdo myself in both story, communication, and just freebies and just the overall experience. I think that's valuable to me.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of where I'm at. And obviously, I just did my first one, so I can't really speak. But my new goal, whenever I run a Kickstarter, at least for the podcast, is to be 855. And I think that if I run one next November for season 4, which
Yeah,
I think I'm going to do, the goal is to beat 855, and my goal is to try to double that to 1600. And I
right.
think it makes a lot of sense. And so that's where I'm at. But, obviously that's kind of where I'm at and what can I offer? What can I bring to the table so that you don't go back somebody else's Kickstarter or that you don't go back another podcast or you want to back both. And
Yeah,
so,
both is good. Both is good. Yeah, I want people to back whatever they will. I do what you do, and well, what you just said that you plan on doing is that I have a document, right, where I laid out all my campaigns. I see what day in the campaign each one funded. I have a column where it says what it made in the first day. I have a column of what percentage it overfunded by, and the overall amount of money made, and the overall number of backers. That is important to me so I can see if a series is going to grow or if it's going to pull back. Prison Witch ends with volume 3 because volume 2 didn't show growth. Kickstarter wasn't in a better place when we did volume 2 than it was volume 1, and there were things that I did on the Kickstarter that I tried that weren't as successful as our first go ahead. So I thought, all right, well, we'll conclude with volume 3. I put up volume 3. Volume 3 has now dramatically outperformed volume 1 and volume 2, but I'm still going to end there so I can observe and see if it's the fact that we ended that drew people in. Do people see that it's the finale and do they want to binge, or is it just the growth in Kickstarter? I'm gonna long term observe how my series go and pull information from each campaign and always compare it to the last. But as far as other campaigns, beyond like what a friend of mine has up right now, I didn't even look at what's going on. I cannot tell you what's on Kickstarter right now. But I don't want to know, right? I want
So
to not compete. I want people to look at those and back them too.
This is my whole problem, is that I am looking at everybody's campaign because I have to, and
Yeah.
so I know everything that's on Kickstarter, but I also know that I don't know any other podcaster on Kickstarter. I know what the podcast scene looks like, and I know there's people who are trying to do what I'm trying to do, and they got like $3. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to beat them up, but
No,
I
no.
looked at their campaign, and their campaign's wording sucked. Their imagery sucked. They didn't have an actual battle plan. $25 for a shout out on your website is nothing. It's this idea that they didn't have a battle plan coming in.
Yeah.
And I actually thought about what I was offering, and it was somewhat well laid out. I'm not saying it could be a lot better, but I know what's going on. But I also know that, my friend Larry Higgins was commenting, and he does a comic book. I'm a podcast, so we're not directly competing. I'm in the comic sphere, but I'm not directly competing because we're in different areas of pop culture. Same thing with Tom Hutchinson, who's doing an action figure, or Larry Welch, who's doing an action figure. It's comic-esque, but it's not a podcast. My podcast is comic-esque, but it's a podcast. So it's a little bit different in that realm. But then if somebody else is doing a podcast and they did $5,000, I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe they have a different audience. Maybe they have a different battle plan, or maybe, it is what it is. But also, what is, I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now. And I would be upset if the next time I do this in a year, if I only did $400.
Yeah.
Then I would be upset because then something's wrong.
Yeah. Then you have to examine what you did that either wasn't as good as last time or why there wasn't growth. I've done the same thing, I've and I mean I did it with Prison Witch, where I wondered what was less desirable about how I did the second campaign than the first. And now, volume 3 is out there, and I think that I figured it out because it's doing very well. It's now the most impactful campaign of the 3, and yeah, it's important to assess and to take ownership of any L's that we take, and any and all of our wins too.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important. And also in my Kickstarter, I'm going to make more money on the back end outside of Kickstarter than I will make on Kickstarter, because I have some merch, and I'm going to be selling that merch. I got this little bad boy coming. I got a nice little picture of it with my friend DJ Croft, and it's a metal card, and it's going to be all shiny. And those are going to be $15 in my eBay store.
Nice.
And I know he's going to make good money on it too. And it's a 50-50 ownership play with him. So that's going to be exciting. And that's why, and the way I see it is that everybody got that thing out for $12 on my Kickstarter. So if you want it, it's $15 on eBay when it comes, and it's going to be shiny, beautiful. There's only 121 of them. Nice. So it's super limited. And if it goes well and they sell it quickly, I'll be printing more with him. And there's real money to be made. So I'm going to be making good money on that. And all that money that I make from that, minus taxes, is going to go right back into the show. And it's going to be definitely helping keep this show alive. So if you want to keep the show alive and you missed the Kickstarter, go on my eBay store and hit me up, and I'll hook you up with one. So
well, there you go, man.
Not to continue to promote myself here, but where can people find you? Because you got a lot of stuff going on. Where can people
Yeah.
find you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the
Yes.
Kickstarter, Snapchat, TikTok?
TikTok, indeed. Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as Pat Shand, which is my name. My company is Space Between Entertainment. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Kickstarter is very simple, actually. The Kickstarter is tinyurl.com/Prison Witch. Go on there. We are already funded, and we're gonna keep on climbing. We have 24 days left, and yeah, it's the final volume. If you haven't read volume 1 yet, you can hop on and get the complete series and just binge it in one go. Yeah, that's it, dude. Yeah, if you're a Destiny New York fan, I would say try it now because you get the free trading card when you pledge. That'll be sent next year with the books. And that's all I got for you, man. Oh, on the Zenescope tip, I have coming out next is Van Helsing Hour of the Witch, followed by Van Helsing Shattered Soul and Dracula's Daughter Quarterly, which is going to be a 64 pager.
Yeah, and also one of the things that I'm going to throw out about Zenescope is that they got a virtual con February 10th. So if you can make it, it's fun. Buy a bunch of Zenescope stuff. And what happens with Zenescope is that they recycle a lot of old titles on exclusives. And you never know when they're going to put a book you wrote on into an exclusive with a really cool cover. So that's something to keep out in mind as well, is that you might see a cover, Firefighter Sexy Samantha is a good example of that, where that is written by you, not the metal. The metal is a different book, but the regular version of that is written by you. And that's something to keep in mind as well, is that you might have a book written by Pat Shand and you don't even realize it's written by Pat Shand because you didn't open it up yet and see your lovely name there. So if you're at a con and you're going and you're going to be there signing or whatnot, you might want to look up what books you have and who wrote them, especially if you want to get stuff graded.
I should. Yeah, I'm the
Oh,
number of times.
not you, the my audience.
No, I'm telling you, me. The number of times that someone has come to my table and showed me a cover, and I'm like, "What's this?" And they're like, "You wrote this." There's so many variants. You know what I'm saying? It seems endless. So when I see the variant, I'm always surprised.
Yeah, it's something that you know, opening it up, very helpful. I'm just gonna say it's very helpful because there's a lot of variants in a lot of ways, and might be a little too much with what they do. I think they did like almost like 250 variants last year minimum.
Yeah,
a lot. That's a lot for a company. But anyway,
fun stuff though, you know.
But anyway, as I've been saying, you have to support indie. You have to support mainstream comics too. And one of the ways to do that is obviously backing this Kickstarter. So if you got money, whether you're backing digital, physical, a combination of the both, or whatnot, however you want to back, whatever combinations you want, that goes a long way because it helps to make these books possible.
That's right.
It also helps to make sure that other projects get funded. People, when you start entering, you know, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, this now is becoming a living. And it helps to pay the bills and helps to allow for more creations to come forth. Also, stretch goals have yet to be revealed, but obviously you're going to be breaking at least one or two of them, if not more, at this point. So that's as well, where that's just bonus stuff you get. So obviously, the more people that back, the more shit you get, guys. So actually consider to do that. And then even going further, following people on social media is very important because it lets you know when things are coming out and where to get them, as well as sharing out the Kickstarter, telling people you backed it and everything in that nature, and sharing out other projects too. You know, very, very important because Facebook's algorithm is not the same as it used to be. And it's something that is very important because it does help to get projects noticed. About me, obviously, you can use Mix'em if you need to print your books. Type my name, Andrew Davis, 5% off if you need a new printer and you want to save yourself some money. Also, Redbubble is my t-shirt. You can pick that up, get a small piece of that. That helps to support this show. And then just follow me on social media. You know, obviously YouTube is Pop Anime Comics, Facebook is Pop Anime Comics, and a variety of other places I'm at. It's all up in the link up above. And I appreciate all support driven to me. I obviously go back Pat's Kickstarter. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yeah, for all those who do back and check it out, thank you very much. it has been an honor telling this story with my wife, Amy. The artist is Carola Borelli and Erica D'Urso. Erica has been with us for the whole run, and Carola is coming to tell a dual final story. Yeah, it's been a great time telling this story. I am both sad and very excited to see it through to the end. And if you want to get the entire series, it is on Kickstarter now at tinyurl.com/Prison Witch.
And I think that is a wrap, everybody.